We are going to ask that this matter be carried to the next meeting without notice to be provided. We have we've been in communication with the A&E Zion A&E Church. We know that they had some questions with regard to the overall site plan and the impact on their facility there. And in speaking with the city administration about it, we've made the decision to carry the application, and we're going to schedule a meeting with representatives of the church, the housing authority, because as you know, this property is federally owned and managed by the housing authority, and my client and church representatives. So hopefully we can do that and just have a dialogue with them with regard to trying to help consideration for them, their parking needs, and then at the same time be able to move forward with what we consider to be very important, 100% affordable senior housing. And I think that the dialogue will help rather than try to do it in a question and answer before the board. And I think it would make it easier for us, for the church, and for the board to carry it and to have that meeting. So if there's anybody here, I know there were two individuals who I spoke to, let them know that we weren't going to be heard tonight. But that I wanted to make sure the board understood why we were carrying the application.
Sure. Thank you. So if anyone is here for this meeting, for this application, I should say, the meeting is being held until the August 22nd, 2022 meeting, and this will be the notice for that. Okay, thank you. Next application, D&J Services LLC, 147 Livingston Avenue, Block 226, Lot 3.01, ZB 2022-07. Variance application to convert the existing 3-story, 5-bedroom, single-family dwelling into a 2-family dwelling with 2-bedroom unit on the first floor and a 3-bedroom unit on the second and third floors. 2 on-site parking spaces are proposed. Zoning district R-5A, single and 2-family residential. Tom Felsen.
Members of the board, Thomas F. Kelso on behalf of the applicant, D&J Services LLC. This is a relatively simple, straightforward application with regard to the need for several variances that we think are technical and minor in nature. And the purpose of this is to convert this existing single-family dwelling into a 2-family dwelling. Both of those uses are permitted uses in this zone, so that we're talking about a permitted use as a 2-family dwelling. There has been a request and granting of the city of a waiver of a site plan application, so that we're really proceeding with the variances that are being requested, which I would like to take a minute to explain. The current lot is not changing in this application, but because the use is changing, there is now a requirement for a lot area variance of 5,000 square feet, whereas a minimum of 8,000 is required. Again, it's a technical variance because it's kind of unusual if you think about it. We now have an undersized lot, but it's an existing lot. The building is there, and the building's not changing. And the use that it's changing to is a permitted use. So it's kind of odd that that would result in a lot area variance, but it does. It also creates a lot width variance because there's it's currently a 50-foot wide lot. Well, because of the change of use, the 2-family requires an 80-foot wide lot. So those two variances I would consider to be technical in nature, simply because of the change of use to another permitted use. Once again, as I've indicated, there's a site plan waiver, and the building is not changing. So it's all essentially, other than some demolition that's being done, the building is really just being converted to the interior. There is a maximum building coverage variance that is new. The building coverage variance is very minor. 20% building coverage is permitted. Building coverage of 20.53 is what's being identified here, partly due to some of the reconfiguration of what's on the exterior of the property. And finally, a parking variance. Parking variance for one space, because we're talking about 2 dwelling units. The requirement is 3 spaces, and we are creating 2 spaces on the lot, which is what actually currently exists with a garage that's being demolished, and there's going to be 2 parking spaces that are going to be surface parking spaces. And that's basically the overview of the application. I would point out that converting from a 1-family to a 2-family in this situation is not increasing the bedroom count. The current bedroom count in the facility is 5, according to the tax records. We are now creating two units, one with 2 bedrooms, one with 3 bedrooms. So we're going from 5 bedrooms to 5 bedrooms. The only real change here is we're going from 1 family to a 2-family, with some minor changes to reconfigure the site. So that's an overview of the application. I think it kind of lays out what I think is the fairly minor nature of it, but of course we need to be here in order to support, to your satisfaction, the justification for those variances, and hopefully you'll agree with us. I'm going to call 3 witnesses. First, our civil engineer who gives brief testimony with regard to what's taking place on the site. Second, we will be calling our architect in order to be able to go through the reconfiguration of the interior of the facility for you. And then finally, our professional planner to be able to provide justification for those things that I just laid out for you. With that as an overview, unless there's any questions, I would first call for testimony first. Mr. Andrew Wu, our civil engineer.
Can you please state your name, spell your last name for the record?
Yes, Andrew Wu, W-U.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I
Mr. Wu, you are a licensed professional engineer of the state of New Jersey, is that correct?
do. Yes, it's correct.
And in that capacity, you're familiar with the engineering aspects of the application before the board this evening?
Yes, I do.
Could you give the board the benefit of your professional qualifications and experience?
I got my master's degree from Civil Engineering Department from the University of Cincinnati, Ohio, in 1981. So I have more than 40 years experience doing civil engineering and survey. I have appeared many times in the Middlesex County different townships. Yes.
What's up to with the professional civil engineer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wu, if you could then, and I know you have an exhibit here. I don't know if you can put it up or whether it's, I don't think you can really see it. I think the board would have a copy of this in their folder, I believe. So if you could please, why don't you just go through the basics of the engineering aspects? I know it's pretty simple.
Basically, we are converting 1-family dwelling to 2-family dwelling. And the 2-family dwelling requires 3 parking spaces. And we provide 3 parking spaces, 1 off street, 2 on the site. And then we also provide some kind of landscaping to enclose the parking space and make the site more beautiful. And we decrease the maximum lot coverage from 27.95% to 20.53%. So the allowable is 20%, will only increase by 0.53%. Other than that, we put 2 AC units on the side of the building, and we put the trash can at the end of the building, and nothing major change for these buildings.
Are you, I believe the plan calls for the demolition of the existing 2-car garage, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you are calling for installing a new pad for those 2 spaces and an apron out to the street, correct?
That's correct.
And is that located in an existing curb cut?
We demolished the existing garage and we put 2 parking spaces over there.
But it's located in the same place where the current curb cut is to get into the garage, correct?
Yes.
Okay. If you were to add a 3rd parking space on that site, would you need to widen the curb cut?
Yes.
Okay. And if you widen the curb cut, would that eliminate an on-street parking space?
Yes.
So we're not calling for that. We are, rather than that, we're asking for the variance for the one space.
Yes.
Just want to make sure we understand. The coverage variance that we're requesting at 20.53% is actually lower than the current coverage, is that correct?
That's correct.
So we're actually improving that situation?
Yes.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about the trash and recycling? I also want you, because I know some of these comments came from your planner with regard to street trees and also the fencing issue.
We put two street trees on the Central Street side, two street trees. And we propose the trash and recycling bins at the end of the year before then, and we enclose with 4-foot vinyl fence.
And the city is requiring that any sidewalks, curbs, or pavements that become damaged, that we're willing to improve them and replace them.
Yes,
correct?
we do that.
Okay. And with regard to the fence, there's a notation from the planner that the fence is perhaps located over the property line into the right of way. Is that correct?
Yes.
And we're going to eliminate that condition and move the fencing back on the property line.
That's correct.
And I believe there's also concern about changing fence in the front yard. Is it our intent to put new fencing in that has privacy slats or an alternative to that, but not have to change the fence?
That's correct.
Other than that, with regard to the city engineer's report, any recommendations or comments we're willing to comply with, is that correct?
Yes.
I have no further questions for Mr. Wu.
Any member of the board or board professionals have any questions to this expert?
I just have a quick question. The street trees, I believe there are 2 street trees on Sanford Street. I just wanted to make sure I heard properly that are they being removed or replaced or what's the
All right, let's go back to the street trees. What exactly are we doing? There are street trees there now. Are they remaining?
There's one street tree on the Joyce Kilmer Avenue remains, and we put a new street tree on the Sanford Street.
Is there a reason you're taking the 2 existing street trees on Sanford out?
You mean Street?
Yeah,
we
two
can.
there.
Yeah, so if we need to, we can plant one more tree on the Joyce Kilmer Avenue. Yes.
Any other questions, Mr. Wu?
Any other questions from the board professionals to the board? Same on the next witness, please.
Thank you. At this time, I will call Mr. Robert Hernandez for testimony.
Good evening, Board.
Just state your name, spell your last name for the record.
Hernandez, Hernandez.
You swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Mr. Hernandez, you are a licensed professional architect in the state of New Jersey, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
In that capacity, you're familiar with the application before the board this evening
Yes.
with respect to 147 Joyce Mill.
Yes, I am.
And you were involved in the reconfiguration, design and reconfiguration of the interior of the building from one family to a two-family?
That's correct.
Would you give the board then the benefit of your professional qualifications and experience?
Sure. I graduated in 1999 from NJIT. In 2000, I worked for Thomas Bayo for about 12 years, Thomas Bayo Architect, who now is in Short Hills, New Jersey. In 2012, I branched out and opened up my own shop in Metuchen, New Jersey, and I've been practicing now for 10 years. And have been before this board and many boards, multiple boards.
What accepts you as a professional architect?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hernandez, then I'm going to allow you to just run through.
Thank you. So I want to describe the building And let me start with, I guess, showing you the pictures. We'll start with page C1, which is what you have. I didn't bring any new photos or anything.
Robert, excuse me, when you refer to the plan, can you at least give us the date on that plan?
Yes. The date of my plans is April 18. It was later revised on July 14, 2022. So in describing the building, at least for the exterior, we're keeping the existing siding. All of the windows and the roofing are being replaced. We're also looking to repair and or replace the existing and rear front doors, as well as the front landing and steps, and the rear. All of the exterior doors are being replaced. So the only thing that we're keeping is the existing siding, which is in good condition. But all the windows are new, and the roofing. So the current house, the single-family home that exists now, is 2,160 square feet. The first floor is 1,005 square feet. The second floor, 765 square feet. And the existing finished attic, which has a good portion of it has an 8-foot ceiling height, is 390.6 square feet. Altogether, the square footages add up to 2,160 square feet. The existing house is a 5-bedroom home under the property tax card, and it will remain with the proposed, proposed separation of the 2-family apartment house. We will continue to have 5 bedrooms, so there's no net increase in the number of bedrooms. It's just the way that things were redesigned and rearranged to comply with the common spaces required for each of the apartments. And by the way, the floor area ratio is existing to remain at 43.21%. So on page A1, if you look at the 3 drawings on the top left corner, we'll start with the basement, which is an unfinished, it's an unfinished basement, or partially finished. It has a 6'7" ceiling height. It's kind of non-habitable, but there exists a laundry room there, the water heater and furnace, all enclosed in one room. And then there's an existing bathroom in the back, which the homeowner wishes to repair. This is pretty much the landlord space. It's the purpose of the basement now is so that the tenants can use the laundry room that exists there, and we're just gonna repair and paint the existing laundry room that's there. As far as the first floor, if you can see I labeled 1 and 2 here. These are the 2 existing bedrooms in the house on the first floor. They're facing Sanford Street. If you go to the second floor, there are 3 bedrooms there, which 2 of them face Stanford, and bedroom number 5 faces Joyce Kilmer Avenue. I don't have the existing attic as an existing bedroom right now. It's just an open space, doesn't have egress windows, and doesn't even have a closet. So those are the 5 existing bedrooms in the single-family home today. I redesigned the house, specifically the first floor here, so that I separated the common area where when you come in and come up the stairs into a common foyer, which is a little bit bigger than what it was before. You'll find a door that once you open that door, you're on the first floor, and to the right of it, we're keeping all of the existing stairs. I am removing one step which used to be here on the left side, as you can see on drawing 6A1. There was a first step on the left before you reached the landing and went up to the second floor. So I'm removing that step. I'm recreating that step now here in front of the landing, so that you can go up to the second floor. Once you reach the second floor, there's a door at the top of this, an existing door at the top of the second floor. That's basically now the entrance into the second floor apartment. So this hall area, this whole foyer area is the common space. It'll be a fire-rated, 1 hour fire-rated space, which is what's required as compartmentation between 2 apartments. On the first floor, once you open the door, I designed a large living room, which I never thought about removing this wall, but if I did, then basically the living room square footage would have increased. But we meet the requirement for the amount, for the area of common space. The living room right now, I designed it to be 151.4 square feet. And the living room is basically once you go past this opening. Any hallway that I have on this first floor, I did not include into my common area, square footage. So then once you go through this small hallway, you would see that there's one of the 2 bedrooms on the left side. We took the existing sunroom that is facing the Joyce Kilmer Avenue, and we converted that into a bedroom. That room has 88.4 square feet, and it excludes the square footage of the closet. So the room here in the front is 1 bedroom, and the one to the left of the kitchen area becomes a 2nd bedroom. The house has an existing bathroom, and it had an existing bathroom and a closet. I basically took out the closet and made it a larger bathroom, and put the door on the side here of the kitchen, as opposed to where it was before, which was right from the bedroom. It was a private entrance into the bathroom, but did not allow anyone else to use the bathroom before. The house has 2 egresses on the first floor, the front entrance, and in the back there's a rear door that leads into an existing wood deck, which, like I said, we're going to repair or replace as necessary. The 2nd floor apartment, once you reach the top of the 2nd floor and open the door, I have a small hallway that basically is the spine of the house. And you have 2 front-facing bedrooms there. I created a large living room, which is 197 square feet. The bathroom is existing to remain. It's just getting repaired. It's on the right side, facing the back, facing the rear. And what used to be a closet, like a large walk-in closet, is now going to become the kitchen. So with a stove, a refrigerator, a sink, and a dishwasher. It's a small kitchen, but it works. It has 77 square feet of area. We're not looking to add anything onto the house, even though we had the opportunity to make the 2nd floor larger by constructing over this portion, which is only single story. We decided not to do that and just try to work with what we have. The existing finished attic is, I think it's 390.6 square feet. And what I did there, in order to arrive with a common area that is more than the required, I took the front portion of the finished attic and converted that into a bedroom. Added also a closet and called out to replace the front window with a replacement casement window. This bedroom is 102 square feet, and it excludes the size of the closet, which is 2 foot, almost 2 foot by 5 foot. The remaining of the space in the attic, which has a ceiling height of 8'2" in the center and drops down to 4 foot and 3'7" on the sides and on the back. That area is now 187 square feet. So when you add the 187 square foot of, I call this a playroom, maybe I shouldn't have called that, because it's just a common space. It's just a dish, it could be a TV room or, for the bedroom upstairs. But when you add that up to the proposed size of the living room, we're over the required. I think we have 460 square feet provided between those 2 spaces. So that's pretty much the explanation with the floor plan and the explanation with what happens to the exterior of the building.
All right, so let me ask you just a couple questions. The first apartment unit is 2 bedrooms.
Yes.
And I believe the occupancy maximum is 3 people.
For the first floor, yes, 3 people and 4 people for the second unit.
For the second unit. So with the reconfiguration to a 2-family, this is still limited to a maximum of 7 people occupying
That is
the
correct.
entire building.
That is correct.
And we have not increased the bedroom count.
No, we have not.
I don't know if, there were a couple of questions about lighting, I think.
Yes, so I guess I try to answer that question for you about the exterior lighting. I wasn't sure whether your question related to a light post type of lighting, but on my end, I added exterior lighting, wall-mounted lighting right on the building, pointing out to the front walk, to the walkway on Sanford Street, to the backyard. The lighting is not supposed to be directed towards another property. It's just to light up the concrete walks and make it safer for people that are, passing by at night.
That would just, I know I asked Mr. Wu before, but with regard to the fencing, that the fencing is going to be, make sure it's on our property line, and we're going to be complying with the city
Yes, we
planning
are.
report with regard to the privacy.
Yes, we are, and whatever the material requirement, we will comply.
I have no further questions for Mr. Mendez. Board wishes to direct me.
Any member of the board or board professionals have any questions for this witness?
I have one. About the bathroom in the basement. Why do you still need it?
Well, it's still there. If you say, take it out, and we'll take it out.
Yeah,
No problem.
I would prefer it to come out so that there's no
Sure.
issue if
I just thought it would be
possibly
something-
go move there or
Right.
move in or something.
Okay with that? Yeah, so we don't care. Fine.
And also, the roof line is not going to be raised at any.
Not at all. Nope. The roof shingles, by the way, they were replaced recently.
Right.
So I know I'm calling for the roofing to be replaced, but it was recently done.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
it's brand new roof.
No problem. Any other questions, board members or board professionals? Seeing none, your next witness, please.
Thank you. At this time, I will call my final witness, Ms. Allison Coughlin.
Please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
Allison Coffin, Coffin.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
You may proceed.
Ms. Coffin, I believe you have been before this board many times. Have your credentials changed at all since the last time you were before this board?
Good idea.
I will accept you as expert.
Ms. Coughlin, then, I usually would just like to ask you to give the basis of your consideration for this application. I've indicated what the variances are before the board, including the parking and the existing circumstances. If you could give us your analysis of those variances and hopefully provide justification and support for the granting of those.
Sure. The requested variances that the applicant is looking for tonight are lot area and frontage. There's an existing front yard setback variance. We're not altering that at all. We're not altering the building. They're reducing the building coverage, so it's still non-conforming, but it's now de minimis at 20.53, where 20% is required. And we've got the variance for off-street parking, where we've got 2 off-street, and there's on-street available parking. The requested variances in this case are bulk or C variances, and there's 2 tests within the municipal land use law for this type of variance. The first is the C1 standard. It's commonly called a hardship variance, and that's appropriate when a lot's unique shape, topographic conditions, or people pre-existing structures create a situation where the strict application of the ordinance results in hardship. That would really apply to that front yard setback variance here. The second standard is known as the C2 standard. Sometimes you may hear it called a flexible C variance, and that's justified when the variances advance the purposes of the municipal land use law and the benefits substantially outweigh the detriments. And it's my opinion that the other variances that are being requested tonight can be granted under the C1 and C2 standard. This is a case where the variance is all derived from having a permitted use on a lot which is undersized for that use according to the current zoning requirements. So there's hardship present relative to the existing variances for setback, which are not altered, and lot coverage, which is improved from the current extent of the nonconformity and also for lot area and width, as there's no available land to increase the size of this site. The variances also can be granted under that C2 standard because they advance the purposes of the municipal land use law with regard to providing an appropriate population density and concentration, which will contribute to the well-being of persons, this neighborhood, the community, and the region. The lot area and width variances are appropriate for this neighborhood, as they are consistent with the character of the surrounding neighborhood. There are 41 lots that are within 200 feet of the subject site. One lot contains a public park, one lot's vacant. 2 of the lots have a mix of retail and residential. And the remainder of those lots are residential uses of varying intensities. There's one lot that's got 4 units. There's 24 single-family lots. Then there are 12 two-family dwellings within 200 feet. So clearly, a two-family dwelling is an appropriate and customary use for this area. So I then looked further at the lot sizes for those existing 12 two-family homes to see whether what we're proposing is still appropriate for the area. There are no two-family homes that are unconforming 8,000 square foot lots. Other than the park, there are no 8,000 square foot lots within 200 feet of this property. There are 5 two-family homes on lots of identical area and dimension to what we're proposing, so 50-foot wide, 5,000 square foot lots. And the remaining 7 two-family homes are on lots which are smaller than the subject site. So therefore, my conclusion as a planner is that the proposed two-family home on a 5,000 square foot lot provides an appropriate population density that is consistent with the current neighborhood pattern. This is further supported by the draft master plan, which hasn't been adopted yet. We have to review the draft. And this notes that the average lot size in this zone is 3,575 square feet, and more than 80% of the lots are under 5,000 square feet. And it also recommends decreasing the lot size for a two-family home to 5,000 square feet. That doesn't happen yet, but that was important information for me to be able to review and to share with you.
Ms. Kaufman?
Yes.
The master plan was adopted in March. It has not been effectuated through a new zoning ordinance yet, but it
What
was
I had
adopted.
was a draft,
Well,
even.
yeah, and I should probably change the language on the website. It probably still says adopted. It was adopted at a May meeting, so it is the current.
So then the current master plan recommends the 5,000 square foot lot. That's the best news I've had all day, thank you. Proposed parking variance is appropriate for this lot as well. The site plan allows for 2 off-street parking spaces, 1 for each unit. There is parking available on-street to meet that additional space requirement. There's space along Sanford Street frontage that can accommodate 3 vehicles. The RSIS also gives the board the ability to count on-street parking adjacent to the site towards the parking need if such is available. And furthermore, the applicant is going to pay that payment in lieu of parking fee, which would mitigate the impact of that single parking space deficiency. These variances can be granted without detriment. The lot area and width variances are due to the existing dimensions of the lot. Additional land is not available, but it's appropriate for this neighborhood and the zone. The front yard setbacks are existing and unchanged. The lot coverage variance here is a significant decrease from the existing conditions and is now a de minimis exception. And the proposed parking layout functions, and the deficiency can be mitigated by that payment in lieu of parking fee. It's also my opinion that there's no substantial impairment to the master plan and land development ordinance. There's no negative impact on surrounding properties due to the nature of the use and the density being consistent with the existing character of the neighborhood. One of your goals of the master plan is to increase residential land use as well. This is the old master plan, so I'm going to just skip that. The new master plan is currently been adopted. It notes that for the R5A zone, that it recommends that for a 2-family house, this is the lot size, 5,000 square feet, 50-foot width. So that would make this conforming to what the master plan recommends.
I have no further questions for Ms. Kaufman.
Any member of the board or professional have questions for this witness? I just have a question, I don't know about who would regard to this will be agenda. Does the owner of this property also own the car lot across the street?
Yes.
Okay, because I know I drove by last week when I got this plan to take a look at it. He has 5 cars parked in the backyard, in the driveway. Will that be eliminated?
Yes. Be eliminated.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Just wanted to make sure, because,
Yes.
you know, it looks like the used car lot over there.
That'll be
behind the property,
eliminated.
so, all right, thank you.
No.
Any other questions? Seeing none?
That completes our presentation.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to open it up to the public. There'll be anyone from the public who wish to come forward and have any questions or comments on this application, please come forward. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. Seeing none, I will close the public portion of this meeting. Board discussion, anyone have anything? Mr. Duffy, you want to close it? You're good.
I'll send it to the board's discretion.
Thank you. Kate?
Should the board act in favor of the application, we recommend the following conditions of approval: compliance with the terms of the city engineer report dated July 20th, 22 for the project, payment of a site performance bond and amount reviewed and approved by the city engineer if required, submission of a site inspection escrow deposit for engineering inspection fees and amount calculated pursuant to 1624-160 if required, payment of all water and sewer connection fees pursuant to 13-413 if required, issuance of a road opening permit from the city engineer if required, the applicant should schedule post-construction meeting with the city engineering department, compliance with the terms of the city planning report dated July 21st, 2022 for the project, payment of any other fees due to the city of New Brunswick related to the development or use of the project, payment of all outstanding taxes and water sewer fees, Middlesex County Planning Board approval or waiver, DNR Canal Commission approval or waiver, Freehold Zone Conservation District approval or waiver, submission of engineering and/or architectural plans to comply with any changes required by the planning or engineering memos, plan amendments offered at the hearing if any, compliance with the city's water service system ordinance, payment of a payment in lieu of parking fee as required, the bathroom basement will be removed, all utilities and other on-site improvements to be maintained by the applicant at their sole expense, all on-site utilities to be constructed underground, all temporary encroachments into the public right-of-way shall require city council approval, all construction staging shall be done on-site unless an encroachment allowing in the public right-of-way is approved by city council, streets to be kept clean of sediment and debris, the applicant shall cause the streets to be cleaned and directed to use by the director of public works, replacement of damaged streets, curbs, and sidewalks as per the direction of the city engineer, and the applicant is requesting variances for rear yard setback, lot area, lot width, and off-street parking. That's all I have.
Can I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Who's second? All right, Ellen Ascona?
Yes.
Charlie McNair?
Yes.
John Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mike Feldman?
Yes.
Michael Baldwin?
Yes.
Matt Ferguson?
Yes.
John Rock?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next application is going to be 129 French Street, LLC, 125, 127, 129 French Street, Block 30, lots 36.02 and 40, ZB-2022-02. Preliminary and final site plan application of D&C variances to demolish the existing dwellings at 129-27 French Street in order to construct a 3-story addition to 125 French Street consisting of 200 patron restaurants and bar and 9 residential units, zoning district C-2A, community commercial. Peter Lanza.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
One second. Is there any member of the board that has any conflict with this application?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to recuse in this case.
Okay. Thank you.
Would you prefer me to step out?
Do you care if he sits here or
Yes.
if he moves out?
I don't have a problem with that, Mr.
He
Chairman.
can sit there if you feel like. So with that, you notice there's only going to be 6 members.
I was invited that earlier today, and we will present our testimony this evening since we're all here. And at the end of the evening, I guess we can make a decision as to whether we take a vote tonight or maybe adjourn the vote so that another member can view the table and have a vote at a later date.
Okay, thank you. Please.
Again, for the record, Peter Lampert, appearing on behalf of the applicant. This is an application for a site plan approval with some bulk variances and 2 use variances. There are 3 properties involved, 125, 127, and 129 French Street. The purpose of the application
is to basically merge those 3 lots, demolish 2 dwellings, and create one unit which will house both the restaurant and apartments. For the board's edification, Mr. Gomez, who is the owner of the properties, was before this board in 2012 and received an approval with respect to the bar and restaurant. And at that time, the testimony was that it was going to be a bar and restaurant with a maximum of 200 patrons. This application doesn't change that. We are going to be reconfiguring the restaurant portion and the bar portion of the facility, but we are not increasing the occupancy. Also in 2012, this board imposed a requirement upon the owner to make an arrangement with the parking authority because there is limited parking for this facility. He did in fact do that. That arrangement is still in place where he validates parking. There is a municipal lot in close proximity to this property, and he does validate parking when patrons come and park in that lot, and that helps solve the parking problem. This evening I will call 3 witnesses. Hopefully none of them will be super long. I'll call Mr. Gomez, then I'm going to call my architect, Ms. Chefmaker, and then Mr. Anisel, who will provide both engineering and planning testimony. Raphael?
Please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
Rafael Gomez, G-O-M-E-Z.
Mr. Gomez, you swear affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Mr. Gomez, you are the principal in 129 French Street, LLC?
Correct.
Okay. And at the present time, you own 125, 127, and 129 French Street, correct?
Correct.
And what's on those properties today?
I have a bar, restaurant on the first floor on 125 French Street, and a 2-bedroom apartment on the second floor. Adjacent to it is 127 French Street, a 2-family home, and on 129 French Street is also 2-family home.
And you operate the bar?
Yes.
Okay. And with respect to the bar, what are the hours of operation?
Well, the bar opens up at 10 a.m., but the portion to sell as packaged goods open up at 8 a.m. and close to 2 a.m.
And as far as deliveries to the bar, your beer, your wine, how are they delivered?
Well, we have off-street parking and we have an assigned parking for the delivery to park and bring the beer.
And that is in the parking lot behind the building?
Correct.
And there's a designated spot where the truck will come in and park, drop off whatever he has to drop off and leave?
Correct.
Now, that parking lot is also used to accommodate the residents of the apartments, is that not correct?
Correct.
Okay. And how many parking spaces are back there?
9.
Okay, and we're not changing any of that back there. That's all going to remain the same. And that parking lot is not used by the customers of the bar. That's strictly for the residents of the apartment and for deliveries for the bar restaurant.
Correct.
Okay. And is that locked, or is that parking lot gated?
Yes.
Okay. And how does the truck get in there when it shows up to make its deliveries?
When the truck comes in, it comes to the front of the establishment, tells the person that is at the register, we're here for delivery, we give them whatever they're going to deliver. Then we open the gate, which is locked, and it proceeds to park inside.
Okay. And as far as the tenants of the apartments, do they have a key to the
Yes, each one
lot?
has a key.
So if they're coming home from work or leaving in the morning, they unlock the gate, they leave. When they come back, they unlock the gate, park their car. Correct? Now, you have 5 apartments at the present time?
Yes.
You have 5 cars that are being used by tenants at the present time?
No,
How many cars are being used by
2.
2? Okay. And so the excess parking spaces are for your employees or staff or whoever?
They pretty much use it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Any member of the board have any questions? You said when a delivery comes, he's gonna get out of the truck to come inside and tell you, where is he parking until he gets to the back?
Right in front of the gate.
Yes.
said he's gonna pull up that front, the front would be French Street or something, so that's why.
No, not on French Street.
I
Yeah, not on
don't,
French Street.
he used the words, I'm gonna pull up that front,
Yeah.
so, you know.
All right, well,
All right.
just for the record, the gate is is not on French Street, is
It's
it?
on Harvey Street.
It's on Harvey Street, so the truck pulls into Harvey Street, parks in front of the gate, the driver comes in, you unlock the gate, you let him in, and then he leaves. So there are no deliveries being made on the street?
No.
Okay, and in the years you've been running the board, have you had any problems with delivery trucks blocking the street or blocking cars on Harvey Street?
Well, no, because it's that portion of that, there's no parking in that portion where they park
Okay.
to go in and say.
You said it's a designated,
I'm sorry?
you said there's a designated, delivery place in
Parking
there,
space.
but you're talking, it's gonna be blocking the drive aisle of the parking lot, correct?
No. what do you mean?
Yes. Yeah. It's the same area where if a car was parked in one of the parking spaces, that truck could block the car from exiting that parking space.
No, it doesn't bother me.
The cars are able to get out, there's no room?
There's no room to park cars, get out.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Seeing none, next, witness, please.
Susan?
Please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
Susan Sheffmaker, Sheffmaker.
Do you swear or affirm to the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Before we get started, is it possible if you angle that just a little bit better for the public? Thanks.
What's that?
I think that's better. I think that's okay.
And Ms. Schettner, I know you've been before this board many times. Has your credentials changed since the last time you appeared before the board?
We have not.
I will accept you as a professional architect.
Thank you.
Susan, you're familiar with the subject property in its present condition, and you're the person who prepared the architectural plan for the redevelopment of this property, are you not?
Yes, I am.
Can you describe to the board what is currently on the property that is subject to this application?
Sure. So right now, at the corner of the corner lot, there is a bar and restaurant. And then adjacent to that, there is a two-family and a two-family house. Above the bar is a two-bedroom apartment. So the existing bar is accessed from the corner at French and Harvey. And when you first enter into the bar, there is a bar counter and liquor sales and some routine refrigeration. And then behind the bar counter, there are stairs that go down to the basement. And in the basement, there is a walk-in box and employee bathrooms and storage. And then as you go to the back of the bar on the ground level, there is a single-use bathroom. And then up the stairs, a few steps up at the back, there is a table and chair seating area, a commercial kitchen, and two restrooms, a men's room and a women's room. And then at the rear of that, there are stairs that go up to a mezzanine where there is also seating and tables.
Okay, and what is the current seating capacity today?
The current capacity of the entire space is 200 persons.
And how is it broken down today?
Right now,
Yes.
there's probably more focused on the bar area than on the dining.
Okay, and this exhibit is part of your plan set?
It is
And does that show the present condition or the proposed condition?
proposed.
Okay. Take us through the proposed condition, and let's start with the bar, restaurant, and then we can morph into the apartments.
Sure. Okay, so the first drawing we're looking at is sheet A1 of my set. The date is December 21st of 21, revised 5/26 of 22. And on the left side of the sheet, you'll see the proposed ground floor plan, which includes the restaurant and the bar. So the corner entrance at French and Harvey remains the same. When you walk in to that corner entrance, there is predominantly liquor sales. So there is staff service areas, and then there's also behind that some self-serve refrigeration boxes where somebody could reach in, select something, and then purchase it. On the left side, so now we're going around clockwise on the plan. So to the left of that entrance, there is now a secondary entrance going into the front left of the building. At that area, there is a buffet counter, a steam tables counter, and a bar counter with 9 chairs. In the center of the space, there is seating for 36 chairs for eating, predominantly eating and beverages. So on the left side of that space is a 12-foot hood, and that hood will be used to prepare burgers, burritos, food to order for sitting down at those tables in the front. There's also the steam tables, and the steam table, the food for there is prepared at the back kitchen, which I'll get to in a moment. So this whole front left portion is all dining and beverages and seating tables and chairs. Directly behind that, there's a large walk-in box, and that walk-in box is central to the first floor. And it has all of the beverages required for the use for that business. So as we go around to the left, there is a door to the outside on the left side of the building at the alleyway, and that's the door that would access deliveries to fill that walk-in box. So from that rear delivery space that was described before, the beverages would be brought down the alley and into the space and directly into the walk-in box. So that way the deliveries aren't bypassing any public whatsoever. It's completely separated from the public. At that same area, there are stairs going down to the new basement and also a dumbwaiter going down to the new basement. So in that new basement, there will be walk-in refrigeration and storage. So as you go to the rear, as I said, there is a secondary kitchen at the back. That kitchen is servicing both the prep for the steam tables at the front, as well as made-to-order food at the main lounge, which is the back right of the business. So the back right of the business is the main lounge, so it has tables and chairs for made-to-order meals. So somebody who's going to sit down, open a menu, order a meal, and wait for table service for that food to be brought to them. There's also a secondary bar at that back area, and that has 6 chairs. So then the stairs that go up to the mezzanine right now will remain. So once you go up the mezzanine, you'll see on sheet A2. So switching over to sheet A2, which has the second floor plan, in which you can see the mezzanine, which is on drawing number 1, sheet A2. So at that mezzanine, we are adding a half bathroom at the mezzanine.
And is that mezzanine for habitable space, and are there tables and chairs there?
There are tables and chairs at the mezzanine, approximately 30 seats.
Okay, so for a private party or for a small gathering?
Correct.
Okay, and there is no bar in the mezzanine?
There's not.
Okay. Now, you indicate that all of the alcohol will come in through that alleyway into the building. I assume food deliveries will also take place the same way. They'll come in that
Yes.
same door. And at the present time, how is access to the basement today?
Right now, the access to the basement, as I described in the existing, would be from, I'm going to go back to sheet A1 again. So sheet A1, and when you come in through the entrance from the corner at French and Harvey, there is stairs behind the main bar, behind that front bar, which go down to the basement. And they're directly below the current stairs that go from the front of the building up to the existing second floor apartment.
Okay. And in describing the bar restaurant, the impression I get is that today we have a bar with some food being served. And what I'm seeing here is there really is not a lot of bar stools or bar spaces. It's more now
a restaurant with the bar being secondary, is that the intent
That's
of this
correct.
application?
Yes.
Okay. And the sale of packaged goods is strictly contained to that front corner of that facility?
Correct, and there's a separate entrance, so more of the liquor sales is going through the corner, whereas more of the dining is going through the new entrance. So there's a level of separation between the two.
Okay. Now, take us through what we were doing with respect to the existing two families and the residential components of this project.
Very good. Okay, so at the front center of the building, the new width of the building, we have a new stair going up to the second floor. So what I've done is I've removed the existing stair to the second floor over the existing bar and combined all of the second floor and third floor apartments from that front center stair. So I'm going to switch to sheet A2. Okay. So sheet A2, let's get to my notes. Okay, so there is a new stair to the second floor. So it arrives at the second floor, roughly centrally located in the building. At the second floor, there are 4 apartments. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, 4 apartments. And 3 of them are 2-bedroom apartments, and 1 of them is a studio. Then continuing up to the 3rd floor, it's a very similar layout with 3 2-bedrooms and 1 studio. The 3rd floor has an additional den at the rear. Then from the rear of the building, both floors, there's a secondary exit stair for fire exiting that's internal to the building and exits down to the outside of the building separately. Then the existing 2-bedroom apartment over the bar is now opening to this common hallway and has access to both the front and the rear exit stairs.
So the apartment above the bar will basically remain?
Correct.
Okay, but we'll have a different access.
Correct.
The two-family houses gone,
Correct.
and the new apartments will be integrated into one building.
Correct. The whole
Again-
intention is it becomes one unified building, one aesthetic, one common use, one fire system. All the safety and security will be applied to both the existing apartment and all the new apartments.
Okay. And you indicate that there are 2 methods of ingress and egress to all of these apartments, one on Front Street, one back out to the parking area, correct?
That's correct.
And all of the apartments, just go over the 1 and 2 bedrooms, how many are there, just so we have it on the record?
Sure. Okay, so as noted also on that same sheet A2, there's a unit count across the top. So unit 1 is a 2-bedroom, 3-person. Unit 2 is a 2-bedroom, 3-person. Unit 3 is a studio. Unit 4 is a 2-bedroom, 2-person. Now we're on to the 3rd floor, which is unit 5, 2-bedroom, 3-person. Unit 6 is a 2-bedroom, 3-person. Unit 7 is a studio. And unit 8 is a 2-bedroom, 4-person. And then there's unit 9, which is the existing, and that's a 2-bedroom, 4-person.
Okay. And in putting this project together, we had numerous meetings with staff, and there were questions that were raised about, first of all, package deliveries. How is that being handled?
At the entrance of the lobby, so I'm going to go back to sheet A1. Sheet A1, first floor plan, where you come in the front center door to the stairwell that goes to the apartments. On the left of those, that lobby, there are mailboxes, and on the right side, there is a secure package room.
Okay. And the building, as it's going to be reconstructed, is it going to be sprinklered?
Yes.
Okay. And where are the mechanicals for all of this?
All of the condensers and cooling units for the air conditioning and for the refrigeration will all be on the roof. And it'll be on the new roof, and it'll be behind a parapet going around it, so it'll be shielded from street view.
So any of the mechanicals will be on the roof and not visible from either of the 2 streets?
Correct.
what's the new building gonna look like.
Okay. So go to the next sheet. So I'm gonna go first to the colorized drawings. They're more expressive. And I also, at the request of the last paperwork, that'd be great, thank you.
Were these colorized drawings submitted to the board?
They are, yeah. So that's 12 copies.
Okay, we have copies of these, and I think these should be marked because they were not part of the original plan set, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so they should be marked A1, and I have colorized versions for the board members and staff.
Thank you.
By the way, while that's being passed out, as I was walking here this evening, I ran into your old board attorney, who was leaving the courthouse, and he said to say hello.
All right. So you'll find in the packet the 4 elevations. The first one on the top is the front elevation, drawing number 1. Then working around the building counterclockwise, number 2 is the right side elevation of Harvey Street. 3 is the rear, and 4 is the alley between the 2 buildings. So as per the recommendations of the board and our meetings and discussions, we're removing all of the stucco from Harvey Street and from French Street, and we are replacing it with hardy board, cement board siding. The base is currently a brick, and we're going to extend that brick across the French Street of the proposed building. The rear and the alleyway are going to remain stucco. And the area facing Harvey Street that is like 35 feet back from the street, that will be vinyl siding as we discussed at our meetings. So the color samples we selected was Arctic White, which I have here, and also Iron Gray, which are both the hardy board siding. The Iron Gray will be used for a paint color over the brick, and that's over the existing brick and the new brick so that it's all blended together for one aesthetic. And also the Arctic Gray will be used around the window trims, around the corner boards of the building, and the Arctic White will be used for the hardy board siding, and that color will be matched with the vinyl siding at that upper setback side on Harvey Street. The rear and the left side stucco will also be matched to the Iron Gray, so that once again it all blends. So if you're picking up a little snippet of it as you're coming by the other direction, you're going to see a blend of matching color scheme.
Now, the exhibitor drawing 4 is the back of the building, correct?
Correct.
And is that a doorway in the middle of that?
No, I'm sorry. Drawing number 4 is the alley. So
Okay.
that's the side of the building,
Okay.
and that is the entrance that goes into the walk-in box, goes along the walk-in box.
And where is the secondary exit?
That is on drawing 3. So if you're looking at drawing 3, on the right side of it, there are 3 doors. So one door on the right goes to the rear kitchen. The middle door comes down from the stairs from the apartments above, and the door on the left comes down from the mezzanine. Right now, there is a rear exit from the mezzanine going directly to the outside, and that stair will be rebuilt as an interior stair that's part of the structure.
And does this building meet all of the height requirements of the zone?
It does.
Thank you, I have no further questions.
Any member of the board have any questions for this witness?
I have a question. So for the restaurant, how does a person in a wheelchair get to that second sort of big dining area?
From the back, it's level coming in, so you can come in from the parking
So
lot.
you come from Harvey Street, not on French?
Correct.
Okay.
You coming from Harvey Street or are you coming from the parking lot area?
From the parking lot, from back on the side of Harvey Street.
Where is the exhaust hood for the restaurant? Where is that going to be placed and where it will be pushed out?
Right now, it is at the rear of the existing, which is approximately at the location of the center door of drawing number 3. And it's going to be shifted to just around the corner, at the very back corner. And it'll be come up and come in so that it meets the 10-foot clearance, or whatever the clearances are from the property line, which are 10 feet. The one at the front will be venting up to just behind the roof you see in drawing number 1. And you can see the hood vent in drawing number 4 towards the front of the building, and that's the vent coming up from the front hood.
Where is the recyclable, that fence? Okay, no problem.
Good, I don't have that answer.
I was trying. Anyone else have any questions or?
I was just
Please.
wondering, in case there's a restaurant, you said it's downstairs or?
The whole space is a combination of bar and restaurant, so that it's not fully one restaurant or fully one bar, but each area has a predominant area of tables and chairs seating. There's one at the front when you first walk in that front door, and then there's one at the back, which is the main lounge, which also has tables and seating, and then a smaller bar.
Because I was wondering, like, if the restaurant caught on fire, how would the people that live above that?
The apartments above all have 2 means of egress, so there is a main stair that goes up through the front of the building, and there's a secondary fire-rated enclosed stairwell that exits down directly independently of any other space to the outside. The people in the business don't cross paths with any of the exits from the residential. They're completely separated.
This building going to have, excuse me, is this going to have sprinkler system throughout the whole building?
Yes.
Please, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to follow up on the board member's question. I believe a question was asked about EDA access from the rear of the building, from the rear parking lot. The plan shows an ADA parking space in the parking area, but there's also a gate that I believe the testimony was closed off that parking area. So if a person in a wheelchair needs to get to that back door, can they get through the gate and into that parking lot to get into the building?
If they notify us that they need access, we will provide the access. Again, for security reasons, and this is the way the facilities have been operating for years. We keep that back parking area gated at all times. There is sufficient parking for tenants, and again, like with the liquor deliveries, they can contact us and say, we got to get in, you let them in. If somebody needs access to a handicap to the rear, they can just call or notify us and we would let them in. But the front also has ADA access, so there's street access.
Correct.
From the front of the building.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please. Next witness, please.
Mr. Ansel.
Can you please state your name, spell your last name for the record?
Sure, it's Frank Antisell, A-N-T-I-S-E-L-L.
Do you swear affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Ansel, you've been before this board before, haven't you?
Yes.
Yes, and have your credentials changed in any way since the last time you were before the board?
No, they have not.
We will accept you as a professional fighter.
He's testified both as an engineer and as a planner.
Then we will accept you as an engineer and a fighter. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ansel, can you first of all describe to the board the existing site conditions of the subject property?
Sure. The existing building sit on the corner of Harvey and of French Street. We have the existing restaurant with the apartment above. That's in this darker shade. And what I'm referring to here is sheet number 2, and I've just added some color to it to make it a little bit more easier to see.
Then we should mark that as A2.
What's the date?
What's the date of that?
It's the date of this, it's the same date as the site plan, which has a revision date of 5/25/2022.
So, go over what's there today.
So we have the existing bar restaurant, which is in the darker gray, which is 125 French. We have 127 French, which is here, and we have 129 French. And in the back, we have a parking lot that was previously approved back in 2012.
And the gate that everybody talks about is located where?
The gate is along the Harvey Street entrance to the property, and it's a 24-foot wide gate that has a key that will, you have to unlock it to open it and close it.
And today, how is refuse being handled at the subject property?
Today, there is a garbage enclosure in the back corner over here on the parking lot, and that was part of the approval from 2012.
And the area that was talked about earlier about where the truck parks, the trucks that make deliveries, where is that?
Sure. You notice there's a crosshatch area here, and it is 12 feet by 30 feet, and that's where all delivery trucks will be.
And if there was a truck that either pulled in or backed in and parked there, is there sufficient room if there was a car that was parked in one of those parking spaces to maneuver to get out of that parking space and leave the site?
There is, the drive aisle is 24-foot wide, so there's 12 feet between the edge of the parking space and where that truck would be. So with some backing up and moving forward, a car could get around it. Typically, most delivery trucks are there for less than 15 minutes because they have a tight schedule, so they're there to drop off, make their delivery, and leave.
Now, can you take the board, before we go to that, part of the application, and we talked about it in the opening, this property is in 2 zones, is it not?
Correct.
And when it was approved in 2012, it was in 2 zones.
Correct.
Okay, can you show the board what the 2 zones are and where the zone line is?
Sure. The zone line is basically from the back of the building toward French Street is the C2 zone, or actually C2A zone. And the rear of the property, where the parking lot is located, is the R5A zone. So when this plan was approved back in 2012, they got a use variance for the parking lot because a parking lot is not a permitted use in the R5A zone.
Can you tell the board what we're changing as a result of this application?
Sure. As part of this application, these 2 buildings, 127 and 129, are going to get demolished, and they're going to be incorporated into 125. So it'll all become one building. And as far as the parking lot's concerned, the parking lot doesn't change. One significant change, though, is there is a Vilco door that's located in the sidewalk along Harvey Street, which is one of the ways that items are delivered to the basement of the building. And as per our conversations with your engineer has asked us to remove those Vilco doors. So the Vilco doors that are located here are going to be removed, which eliminates the ability to do deliveries from Harvey Street. So that will hopefully make deliveries come, utilize the space, and come in the rear door like we have designed it.
Now, are we changing the way trash is being handled?
Trash is going to be handled the same exact way.
Okay. Are we changing any of the exterior lighting at the rear of the subject property?
No, the lighting that was approved in 2012 was constructed and is there today and is up, and we've been out to the site at night and it is operating as per the design.
So in reality, the site plan aspect of this application, there are really minimal changes other than the buildings that Susan testified to. But the rear of the property, the parking, and the functionality of the site doesn't really change as a result of this application.
That's correct.
Now, can you review with the board the variances that we are seeking in conjunction with this application, whether they be existing conditions or new variances?
Sure. There are a total of 5 bulk variances. The first 2 are for front yard setback, and the front yard setback is 10 feet. However, we have an existing condition where the front of the building is right at the property line. So we have a 0-foot front yard setback along French Street, and along Harvey Street, our building actually extends over the front property line by just over ½ a foot. Very little portion right here in the very corner. The rest of the building is within our property, and that's an existing condition. And again, those were all approved as part of the 2012 approval. We also are seeking a variance for maximum building coverage, where 60% is allowed, and we're seeking 87.3%, and maximum impervious coverage where 90% is allowed, and we're at 100%. Then when you look, again, since we're split zone, there is one bulk variance for the R5A zone, which is maximum impervious coverage, where in the R5A zone, they allow 60% and we're at 80%.
And again, that's the same condition that's there today that was there in 2012. None of that is changing.
Correct. And also part of the 2012 approval required landscaping be built around the parking lot, and also a vinyl white fence go around the parking lot. Those are there, they're existing, and they're in good condition.
Okay. In conjunction with this application, there were certain staff reports that were generated. One actually hot off the press from Mr. Fletcher today. I always love it when he gives us a report on the afternoon of the hearing, but you had an opportunity to review that report.
Yes.
And there were a couple of requests in that report, and we did accede to those requests and make whatever recommended changes there are.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and then there was the last report we had from Mr. Burke, I think it was June
25th.
June 25th. You reviewed that?
Actually, June 15th, I'm sorry.
June 15th, you reviewed that report?
Yes.
And whatever requests were made by Mr. Burke, we can also comply with?
Yes, we've had 2 TAC meetings with the board professionals, and we believe we can comply with their requests.
And in making those changes, and there was also, I think, one more, the recycling coordinator issued a report, we can comply
Yes,
with that.
that's correct.
And in making those changes, is the plan that the board is looking at this evening in any way substantially altered, where the board would need to see it again, or are they just minor changes?
We believe they're minor changes.
Okay. Now, can you, in your capacity as a professional planner, you identify the variances, and there's also 2 D variances. Can you please give the board your opinion as to whether the board can grant the variances that we are seeking?
Sure. As we talked about before, there is a use variance for the rear parking lot, and again, that was approved in 2012. We're not changing the parking lot in any way, so there's a D variance for that. The second D variance is a floor area ratio D variance, and in this zone, we're allowed a floor area ratio of 2.0, and what we're proposing is 2.02. So we're over the floor area ratio by 0.02. When you look at the variances and you look at what we're proposing here, you know, there's a lot of benefits to what we're proposing. Having this as one building that is handicap accessible, that is sprinkler and is newer, we feel is a much better design than having 3 separate buildings, 2 of which are not sprinkler, and I believe they were built in 1920 is the date on them. Also, one of the things I forgot to point out is both of the existing buildings that we're taking down have front entrance staircases. So there's brick stairs in the front that you have to go up about 4 to 6 feet in order to get into the buildings. That is being eliminated as part of this application. So we no longer have 2 staircases that are along French Street there. When you look at this, we believe that we do meet the positive criteria for these use variances. And when you look at the special reasons, we believe that the board can approve these for special reasons. A, promotes the general welfare. Special reason G, promotes sufficient space in particular areas. And special reason I, for promotion of enhanced visual environment by replacing 2 older houses with 1 new building that we believe will definitely be a benefit. When you look at the negative to this application, we have the variances that we're requesting. Most of those are existing variances, and we believe we've mitigated those, especially back in 2012 when the parking lot was, the fence and the landscaping was added around the parking lot. We believe that the FAR variance also meets the standards of the Randolph Town Center case for justification. The re-examination report recognizes that higher density is appropriate in this neighborhood and that there is no detriment to the public good in granting these variances. And we believe that the C variances, most of which are existing conditions, can be granted under the flexible C criteria, and that all of these variances can be granted without impairment to the township's zone plan or zoning ordinance.
I've got one other thing to ask you about. There is one change to the parking lot, EV spaces.
Oh, yes. Actually, there's 2 things. One, your planner and engineer have asked us to add an electrical vehicle space, which we've added. And they've also asked us to add a bike rack, which we've also added to the parking lot.
Thank you. I have no further questions of this witness.
Any member of the board or board professional have any questions for this witness? Please go ahead.
Is the EVCS space for 1 vehicle or for 2?
It's for 1 vehicle. We believe that's what we discussed at the TAC meeting.
Any other member? Garbage pickup, is it private?
Yes. Yes.
Recycling private, or is that through the city?
Recycling is through the city.
Who brings it to the curb and how often?
Once a week, and it's his employees, his staff.
Does the city do once a week recycling in that zone? Most of the city is every 2 weeks.
It's every week.
Okay.
Right now, do you have parking permits for any of your properties on that street?
Yeah, yes, back as part of the 2012 approval, we have an agreement with the parking authority for payment.
You talk about street parking?
Yeah, do they have the street parking permits on Front Street?
No, we do not. Nor are we asking for any.
And if for some reason they were to do permit parking in that area, would he be willing to give up the authority to grant?
Just to, also the side streets.
That's what I mean. I believe Harvey Street is permit parking. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we would be willing to waive those. As he indicated, right now, we don't even use all the parking spaces for tenants, and I'm sure we can handle tenant parking on our site.
Just wanted on record.
No problem.
Any other member?
How many tenants are currently in the building now? There's 5, between the 3 buildings, there's 5 apartments. There will be 9 apartments.
Yeah, but how many currently living there now?
They're all occupied.
How many people?
How many?
On the top of the bar, there's 3 people.
Any other buildings?
On top of the bar apartment, there's 3 people. On 127 French, on the first floor, it is a couple with one son, newborn. On the second floor is two adults, husband and wife, with 1 kid. I believe he's like 10 years old. And on 129 French, on the first floor, It's a lady with 2 kids. And then on the 3rd floor, it's 2 husband and wife, and their son and the son's husband, daughter, not daughter, so the son's wife.
There's about 15 people maybe.
Together?
16. Right, and you're gonna go to 24 occupants with a new. Yes. I know it's not a function of our board, but when you knock those 2 houses down, what's gonna happen with the people that are living there?
Well, they've been already set, I sent them already emails, sent them letters, already like 3 months ago, 4 months ago, telling them about this project. So, yeah, and in fact, one of them is gonna rent me a house that I already own off of Livingston Avenue in North Brunswick, so one of them is gonna go there.
Okay.
So,
What are the rents gonna be for these new units?
I have no idea.
So you're considering just market rate?
Yeah, it's bigger than what we're
Okay. I didn't even know exactly, just market rate or, okay. Thank you. Any other members of the board have any questions or comments? Seeing none?
That concludes my presentation.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to open it up to the public. Anyone from the public that has any questions or comments, please come forward. You'll have one time to speak for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to be recognized as an objector under Rule 2.23D. You familiar with the rule?
Mr. Sullivan?
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay. Yeah, just for the record, I would like to be recognized so that I may present a case in objection to the relief sought under your rules.
We've discussed this twice now at the planning board. The difference between being an objector and being a member of the public that has something to say about the application, good or bad, is a significant one. It can sometimes be form over substance, so as before, I'm going to ask you, what is the nature of your objection?
So, for the record, I am a resident of Saddam Street. For the past 10 years, I've been the editor of New Brunswick Today, a community news outlet, and I'm also the founder of the 5th and 6th Ward Neighborhood Association. I would like to cross-examine Mr. Antisel, Ms. Chefmaker, and Mr. Lanfrit about the facts they put on the record.
Well, you certainly have the right to ask witnesses, ask questions of the witnesses.
Terrific.
You're concerned about your time limit. Well, the chair has the flexibility to impose that time limit. We've gone over this a number of times, and I don't want to flood the record and waste everybody's time tonight. Being an objector is a unique status, and it involves addressing the criteria that the board has to consider in whether to approve or deny this application. Your questions of the witnesses may or may not address those issues, but that doesn't make you an objector. I'm going to suggest that the chair might be flexible in his application of the 5-minute requirements, but I don't think that you qualify as an objector, at least based on what you've said so far.
Okay,
And
well,
rather than go back and forth about it, why don't you just ask your question?
yeah, I just don't see any criteria here in the rule that would disqualify me as an objector. It says, upon the conclusion of the presentation of an application, any objectors wishing to present a case in objection to the relief sought may do so in such order as may be recognized by the chair. And, I feel I meet that criteria, so I'd like to.
At this point, I'm just going to ask that we take a quick 5-minute break. Without have to go to the bathroom. This is going to drag out. I just don't want to have to drag out as well. I'll be right back. So, Charlie, we're going to stick with the 5 minutes, and as soon as you are ready and start talking, we will start the clock to your 5 minutes of comments.
Okay, so I just want to be clear, I'm not going to be allowed to be an objector under Rule D. I'm going to be limited to 5 minutes, including cross-examining all 3 witnesses.
You can ask questions of the witnesses, yes.
Right, do their answers count towards the 5 minutes?
Yes, that's is always have it.
Sir, you know that's not how it's always done.
It has, Charlie, we have never stopped the clock at all when.
You used to not have a clock at all, correct?
No.
You don't remember when you had no timer?
We have had one for quite a few years.
How many years?
Let's go.
It's a relatively recent thing. I know you're the most senior member on the board, so don't tell me you didn't have it.
Charlie, I'll tell you the truth. I thought that this application was only 5 years ago or so before that we approved it. It's not, and it's 10 years, so what's that telling you about my memory? It's short.
Well, I'm just saying,
All right, so.
you know,
All right,
we
so-
used to not have a time limit.
All right, well, we're gonna go with the time limit that we have set forth for quite a few years here now. And as soon as you start, we will start your.
Mr. Gardner, can you, please state your name, spell your last name for the record, and then I'll swear you.
Charles Cravenville, K-R-A-V-O-V-I-L.
Swear affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
You're on.
For the record, I object to not being allowed objector status. Want that to be a matter of the record. Mr. Lanford made mention to a quote municipal lot in close proximity. Can he identify the lot?
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Gomez, I'm sorry. Mr. Gomez, which lot did you make arrangements with to get the parking stickers? Where's that lot located? You indicated that you have parking stickers where you validate parking for patrons.
Oh, inside.
Yeah, but which lot do they go to?
Well, it's under construction right now, that lot. It's right before Johnson, where I guess the old Hungarian building used to be at.
Right, so it doesn't exist at this moment.
Right now it's under construction.
Right now it's under construction, so there is no lot. I think this board should reject this because it is an extreme parking variance. 72 spaces required according to the letter of principal points, providing 8. That's like a 90% variance. I'd also like to ask Mr. Antisel about the discrepancies in his, yes, this is a December 28, 2021 memo, where he says that the application is seeking a parking variance of 50 parking spaces. He believes the requirement is only 58. Who's correct, Mr. Lanford or Mr. Antisel?
We applied the ordinance requirements and we come up with a parking that's needed is 58 and we are proposing 8.
Okay. So Mr. Lanford's letter of principal points is incorrect, where it says 71.6 spaces are required.
Mr. Antisel is the engineer. If my letter had a higher number, I would defer to Mr. Antisel.
Okay. Nevertheless, an enormous variance, and it was stated that this was a requirement that the board put on the applicant to make arrangements with the parking authority for the shortfall, to make up for that shortfall. We heard testimony tonight, just now through my brief cross-examination, that they're not doing that. That the municipal lot that was referred to is under construction and not meeting that shortfall. And I will point out, for the record, the arrangement that's been spoken of, there's no evidence of that on the record, save for Mr. Lanford's representation tonight. Is that correct? There's no letter from the parking authority, there's no documentation that they're actually following this board's order. Is that correct?
Mr. Lanford, do you have a letter?
I do not have a letter from the parking authority, but I can recall my client and he can testify to what he did when he constructed the parking lot and how the facility has been operating to date, which I'll be glad to do after Mr. Crowder is finished with his testimony, cross-examination.
And is that part of the agreement, the approval on the last one, that they got a letter from the parking authority? Yeah, you can testify for a little bit of this.
The resolution of approval from 2012 states, the board finds that the applicant has demonstrated that the parking variance can be granted based on testimony that the applicant will advise patrons of the facility to limit their parking to the available public parking facilities, which shall be encouraged by the applicant so as to minimize on-street parking. So it didn't say we had to get a letter from the parking authority. It said we had to advise patrons where parking was available. And I'll have Mr. Gomez testify as to what he did as far as that is concerned, but there was no requirement of reserving parking spaces within a parking deck.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and for Ms. Sheffmaker, the current licensed premises is how many square feet existing?
I don't have that square footage off the top of my head.
How about the proposed?
Again, I don't have the square footages laid out.
Okay. I would like that information because it's been referenced that this is already a 200-person bar and restaurant. For Mr. Gomez, have there ever been 200 people inside the El Rancho restaurant? Wouldn't it be unsafe to fit that many people in there in the current condition?
It met all the requirements as to exits, as to fire sprinkler the whole entire building. So being unsafe is not. And that if I have had the 200 people there, yes, or just below that.
Okay. I just think that it's a very small space as it is, and I want to be clear that approving this would expand greatly the size of the bar and restaurant. So if they're perhaps approved for 200 already, this would be nevertheless a large increase in the size and scope of the bar use. And frankly, the main reason I'm here objecting is because I've been working with the community and had many meetings over and over again here about the problems affecting our city, and an issue that's come up over and over again is the conflict between establishments that serve and sell liquor and the safety and security of our children and families. French and Jersey Avenue corridor already has one of the greatest concentrations of licensed establishments in the city, and unfortunately, it's also a hotspot for crime. I do think that the reason that you should reject this application is the parking variance. I wish I had more time to question Mr. Antisel about some of the claims in his documents here, but suffice to say this is already a overtaxed intersection where Townsend and Harvey meet offset on Route 27. The parking situation is already a total mess there, and expanding the size and scope of this establishment without providing any more parking is really a bad idea, and I do think that the few claims that I picked away at here have shown that the statements made on the record kind of gloss over this parking issue, and I think that you have every right to reject it on the grounds that they're requesting a major variance. They, even in the best case scenario, they're required to have 58 parking spaces. They want to get away with just 8 at an already chaotic intersection where, unfortunately, the last thing we need is more liquor being sold at this area of the city. And no disrespect to the applicant, but I think that we need to plan in a smart way for the city. And I will point out that there was a school that was displaced, the Lincoln Annex School. The families whose children go to that school will soon be getting a replacement school just 5 blocks away from this location. And many of those children will have to walk past this establishment twice a day. And we heard they're selling liquor as early as 8 in the morning and, going to be actively open at 2:30 or 3 p.m. when the kids are coming home. So I do think that we need to keep this stuff in mind. You have a very valid reason to reject it on the parking front, but I also think that you need to just use your heads and common sense and say, do we need a bigger bar at the corner of French and Harvey Street? I think the answer is no, respectfully.
Thank you, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to comment? Please come forward.
Good evening.
Please state your name, spell your last
My name
name.
is Yolanda, Y-O-L-A-N-D-A.
Can you spell your last name?
Hernandez,
Okay.
H-E-R-A-D-E-Z.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes. And I'm living in New Brunswick. I not agree with this project. My testimony today is in that area, Harvey and French, is a crazy corner, okay? I'm walking myself, I have 3 kids, and the proposal is good, we need a house, we need apartments, but actually, we don't need any more bars. We have enough on the street. We have a tree, more than 3. And that area is people's walking. We have a market, we have pharmacies, we have a bakeries. So actually, it's not a good place for more bars and restaurants either. We have many restaurants there. So I'm nervous. It's the first time here, but when I see the news, I'm very concerned. I say it's not possible. I'm living in this area for many years. I'm grown in New Brunswick, and we don't need that. And the mornings I walk into school, and that corners is many homeless there. People's drinks and vomiting, and you know, we walk with the kids. I walk in on the street with my kids, and they ask me, "Mommy, what happened there?" What can I say? So actually, today, please, we don't need that. We need a house. Actually, in New Brunswick, we need more apartments, but no bars. That's a big problem in that street, principal. French Street, mornings, I want to share. And when you want to have the time, you can walk there. It's not a good place. So we don't need it. People like drink and drug, and we have a science school in a corner, Valle and Prosper. We have a science school. So the students walking that way. And we have and we have more schools around there. So it doesn't, but actually, that's a good place for that. And that in New Brunswick is a good place, and we need to grow, but not that way. That's our wrong way. That's my opinion, and I appreciate it. And my English, I try to speak better, but I'm practical, and I'm sad. We don't need that. We have many problems in the city, and that street is very danger. Anytime. When I walk, I don't walk safe. I don't feel safe. Because many people's drinking. Like, it's not a safe area. And for restaurant, 200 people, we don't have a parking. When you want to buy a market, some food, you don't have a parking there. You need to walk in. So, I'm sorry, Mr. Rafael, but we don't need that. I'm really sorry, but we don't need that. We need a different business, yes. Different, maybe markets, or different stores, convenience stores, but no bars. That's not good. That's not a good sample for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Please come forward, ma'am.
Yes.
Speak.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Last name, a little long. Casarrubias, Casarrubias. Casarrubias.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. They say my English is a little bit not too good, but I would like to explain and express my thought about this project. I am agree with Yolanda because he, Mr. Gomez, sorry, is businessman. We understand that. We need this kind of business, but I have a question for his. If the restaurant, the family restaurant?
I'm sorry?
That your restaurant, the future project is for family restaurant?
Yeah, you can come as a family.
Okay. Okay, thank you. It's unfortunate because when we go to our family, other people go to the bar, and some condition is not good. I'm sorry for saying that. And the other thing, I'm agree with Charlie, 200 people is not enough space. Other things, we walk in the morning, and we walk, we are community to walk in that street, right? We have one school, we have a school bus stop, and then it's in the morning, on the noon, it's difficult in French Street to cross all kids. It's very dangerous for them, and the people in general. But in that, you ask, I think, if I'm wrong, please, you ask about the truck, London, the truck. The truck is parking in the corner. And that is a mess of traffic. When the cars coming in, sometimes the people can see and can cross the street, the French Street. Other things, the parking lot. That is very true. This is very, very issue. I have a question too for Mr. They are they are our family to the next neighbor in the harbor. They have some houses. They ask how impact their life to be this project with their family. I have another question. What time is in the restaurant open? How late? What time they will close the bar? What time they open?
I believe he stated those hours. He said that the restaurant will open at 10 a.m. and close at 2 a.m. And the liquor store will open at 8 a.m. and close at 2
Yes.
a.m.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Well, that's okay.
But that is not proper for our families, our community, right?
I believe that that's what's open right now, if I'm not mistaken.
And then, we are here to express our worries about how it's in the future for our community. Right now, in that corner, we have people, I don't know how called, but who live in the street, front on that, in that
1 minute.
Street, in the front end. And if you go in that street in Harvey, live people with the same, and the cross. So I don't know how he will manage that situation, because there will be increase that situation. So I'm here because it's difficult, because we work a lot and hard to educate me and our community to be more improved and be healthy. We try to work be healthy community, and this kind is more difficult for us. So please, we try to understand this kind of project, because it's very interesting. Now, the project is for, I don't remember the people, but the serve consistent people right now, but how they go. We don't have a space for renting right now in New Brunswick. So what happened with that family if they don't found a house? So this is the worries about we thought about it in 5 months. So thank you so much for listening to us, and please consider this situation for, I don't know, maybe they come more ideas, but more things to resolve this problem, because this is a problem.
All right, thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Thank you. I guess the biggest question right now, what is the total occupancy that he's allowed by the city right now in his building?
Based on the approval that was granted in 2012, it's 200. And we will agree to that number with these changes. If I may address the issue.
We still have it as.
Okay.
So I just wanted to ask that, put that on the record.
Yeah, we're not looking for an increase in the occupancy of the restaurant or the bar.
Okay, so like even if the city came in and said he could hold, I'm just throwing it, 275 people due to the square footage that, you're gonna limit it to the 200.
This board has a right to impose reasonable conditions, and we would agree to a condition of 200 occupancy, which was what was granted in 2012.
Anyone else from the public have any questions or comments? You spoke already, huh? It's one time, please.
Okay, ¿se lo mando?
Okay.
Okay,
You
gracias.
do work. Can you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Garcia.
Garcia. Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Hazte la mano.
Okay.
Es un proyecto tal vez importante y que puede hacer un cambio en la comunidad.
It's a project that's going to create a lot of changes in the community.
Pero sí nos gustaría que reconsiderara el tipo de negocios que quiere hacer.
But she doesn't like the negotiations and negotiations and the effects it will have within the community.
Porque un bar en esa área si es un bar-restaurante en esa área, va a afectar más el tráfico, la basura y las personas que viven en la calle que siempre están tomando.
In this area, there's a lot of trash, a lot of homeless population, and primarily people are just drinking in the area.
Estas son fotografías de personas tomadas que yo camino por el área de la frente. Siempre hay personas del lado de la Harvey que están ahí durmiendo, que están tomadas, otras que se pasan a este lado y se duermen aquí abajo de este árbol.
On Harvey, you can see, people are sleeping under the trees. There's, a lot of trash, a lot of pollution, and these people are just staying there, sleeping. A lot of them being homeless.
Is this on
This is on
the
our
subject property, or is this just on Harvey Street in general?
It's right on the side of it, I believe.
Esta es en la contraesquina del
The corner.
restaurante, en el otro lado.
Yeah, on the other side.
On his property or the property across the street? Because there is another bar that's across the street directly from his property.
It's on the other side.
No, es en la enfrente, pero las mismas personas que están en esa área de la esquina de la Harvey, en la otra licorería, entonces siempre están dando así, cambiándose solo de lugar.
Okay.
Pero son las personas que consumen en los bares de ellos.
Okay. And she's saying it's right on the corner of Harvey and French Street. But
on his side?
I believe on his side. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I believe on his side. Yeah.
Entonces siempre dejan mucha basura. Estamos haciendo un trabajo de comunidad, regando las macetas y limpiando, pero siempre encontramos así, del lado de la Harvey, siempre hay muchas botellas rotas, entonces nosotros no queremos que hay niños caminando, aparte de que el tráfico se hace muy grande.
Yeah, so as mentioned earlier, there's a lot of pollution, a lot of broken bottles, very dangerous, and it's not a good space for kids and families to walk around. It's very dangerous.
Porque no son personas que solamente vayan a comprar a la licorería y se vayan a su casa, sino hay personas que se ponen a tomar ahí en sus carros y están bloqueando a veces donde pasan las personas.
Yeah, so it's not like, it's one thing, they can buy liquor, they can go back to their homes, but they're not doing that. They're staying in the area, they're drinking in the area, and it's just not safe.
Entonces me gustaría que si ellos pudieran cambiar un poco esa parte o él qué va a hacer para la seguridad de los peatones.
Yeah, so she's asking that, he takes into consideration of the safety of the community and protecting people of the community.
Gracias.
Excuse me, yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Since you translated, can we get your name?
Yeah,
on the
sure.
record?
My name is Amber Saravia, and then spelled S-A-R-A, V as in Victor, I-A.
Thank you.
Of course.
Mr. Lander, did your client want to, did your client want to refute any of the allegations of people sleeping on his side of the sidewalk and also public drinking on his property, which we know is against the law and also against his liquor license responsibility?
Two things. Well, first of all, she had on her phone pictures of people on Harvey Street under trees, I think was her testimony, that they were hanging out. We have no trees on Harvey Street on our property. As a matter of fact, the condition of the engineer's report, I think Mr. Fletcher's report, is that we have to put trees in. There are no trees in front of our property on Harvey Street. My client polices the property as best as he can. I mean, if there are problems in the area, they are community problems. There are other bars in this area, and for them to attribute every problem in that neighborhood to my client, I think is really inappropriate. The other thing that I think the board needs to recollect, and I don't know if they heard the testimony, we are changing what we are doing at the facility from basically going from what was a bar that served food to a restaurant, with the bar being a smaller component. So in essence, some of the concerns that they have, even though we were unaware of them, we're really addressing them because we're making this more of a restaurant than a bar, which I think probably will be a benefit to that neighborhood. But again, a lot of the problems that they're raising are not necessarily problems caused by my client and his operation. He's been there for the last 10 years, have had minimal interactions with the police. He runs a clean establishment, and what we're proposing here is actually to clean it up and to make it even better. The issue of the parking, that was dealt with 10 years ago. And we're not asking for any more people. There will be, in all honesty, a few more people, parking requirements generated by the apartments, but based on the number of people that he now has and the number of parking spaces that they use, I think the residential parking can be handled within the confines of the facility. But this board in 2012 indicated that, and there's a statement in the resolution, that we have 200 people and that we have the parking that we have. We're not changing that. We're not asking to have any more people than were approved in 2012.
But when the approval was made in 2012, that was strictly for room for 125 for the bar and the apartment upstairs for the 8 spots. But now you're asking for 2 more properties to be added, consolidated into one, and then you're adding 27 people, which is now at 15, but you're adding 27 people.
We're adding about eight more potential residents.
Right, but am I correct in saying that the first approval was strictly for room 125?
Correct.
So the 2 other buildings had their own, no parking at all.
They had no parking at all.
But I'm just saying, but now you're combining it all together and you're asking for a bigger parking variance.
But by combining the properties, we're actually utilizing the parking space that we have in the back for those apartments. Right now, when those, in 2012, before Raphael acquired those other properties, basically that parking lot was for 125, and those two families had no parking.
Actually, just don't want to correct you on the record, but the approval in 2012 was for 125 and 127 with that parking lot. Because one of the requirements was that the 3 lots there be consolidated into 1 lot.
And have they been consolidated?
They were consolidated, so the parking lot, 127 and 125 are 1 lot, 129 is a separate lot. And as part of this application, we're consolidating everything into 1 lot. So 127 and 125 were part of the 2012 approval.
It's 10 years.
Yeah, I stand corrected. The resolution does say it consolidates 3 lots into 1, so 127 was included in the original approval.
So it's 127, 125, and the parking lot.
And the parking lot. So only 129 is added on. And the issue, I don't think the issue is the residential parking. I mean, the concerns that these people have, and again, we're one of, and they're right, there are numerous bars in that area, but we're one of them, we're there, we operate. We're probably one of the only ones that do have some parking. Same thing for employees or for residents, as the case may be. We're not looking to basically expand the restaurant. We're reconfiguring it. We're making it more, as they talk about, family friendly. We're having 2 seating areas with food being served in both places, which is not the case today. So the reality is this application addresses some of those concerns. The residential parking, I think, can well be handled within what we have now with the parking lot with the 9 spaces. As Mr. Raphael indicates, right now with 5 apartments, got 2 cars. So if we have 4 more apartments, we surely can handle the parking for those 4 apartments. And we're providing bike facilities for people who commute via bicycle, which is not there now. So what we're doing, I think what they're saying is, we don't want you there, but we're there. We're not going anywhere. So the question is this proposal better than what's there today? Does it make it worse? I don't see any way it makes it worse, and it actually does make it better, because again, the focus of our operation has now changed. We are changing it into a restaurant with bars and fun. The liquor store was always there. And as far as the issue of the homelessness, it's a problem in New Brunswick. Not only on Harvey Street, not only on French Street, it's problems in other parts of the community. And I don't want to minimize it, but it's not his problem. I mean, he can police his property to the extent he can police it, but he can't be there 24/7. He can't be there at 4 o'clock in the morning. And those things are things that are beyond his control. And I mean, they need to be addressed, but you know, those problems can't be blamed upon him, and he can't be charged with trying to solve those problems. While he's there, yes, while the bar is open, he can make sure that people are not outside drinking. While the bar is open, he can make sure people are not loitering outside. And if those are problems, somebody should be calling the police, and they should be coming to the site. But they don't, because he runs a good operation. So I think the issue that the board has to consider is, what are we really doing here? We're making a better restaurant. We're getting rid of 200-year-old houses, not handicap accessible, and we're adding 4 apartments. Basically, that's the application. We're not increasing the restaurant as far as occupancy, and the reality is we're making this a better and cleaner site.
All right. So I'm just gonna go back and ask one more time if it's, if we're still in the open public
Sure.
session. Anyone else in the public? Charlie, you're still there.
I do need to cross-examine some of these representations that have been made.
You spoke already, Charlie, you have 5 minutes.
But you allowed them to give more testimony. I have a right to cross-examine.
Testimony that was answering the questions of the people that were asking.
It's testimony, sir.
Amber Saravia, SARAVI.
You swear affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yep. So yeah, a lot of my issues with the development have been brought up, but there's one in particular that hasn't, so I'd like to share my perspective. You bring up that there's a lot of families that currently live at the properties residing in the bar and restaurant. 5 families, yeah. Yeah, and so my concern with that is, one, either they're getting pushed out of their homes. I know you gave them, sometime you said about 3-4 months ago, you reached out to them and let them know of this proposal. But going forward, these families, they might not live there because there has to be development. There's going to take some time with that. But there's going to be new people who are probably going to come in and live above the bar and restaurant. And a lot of these people in the community, they are families, they have kids, and living above a bar and restaurant is not ideal. There's a lot of noise, and it's not going to be the best environment to raise a family. And so I would just like to make that point. Living beside a bar or restaurant, there is some negatives to it, but it's not as in your face, it's not as present, and so I thought I'd like to bring that point up. And yeah, just generally, I stand with the other people that spoke in regards to the parking situation, in regards to the homeless population, in regards to just generally the safety in the area. There is a school that is in development 5 blocks away, and so these kids are going to have to walk by this bar, walk by other bars in the area. And it's not creating an environment for families to thrive, for students to drive in school. They're seeing firsthand a lot of drunk folks, a lot of people buying alcohol, a lot of people doing all sorts of things. And so definitely, I think that should be taken into consideration when thinking about this proposal. And I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan, am I correct that this is credible? I already had his 5 minutes. Am I correct? That's correct. Thank you. And they really didn't provide any more testimony. They were just answering the questions of what was going on, correct? That's correct. All right, thank you.
Okay, so I'm not going to be allowed to cross-examine them.
And I believe Mr. Donovan, I believe you said he wasn't going to be able to cross-examine. I believe we said at the beginning Mr. Credible was not going to be able to cross-examine witnesses, correct? At the beginning we said that?
Well, part of this 5 minutes, he can ask them questions. I don't know if I'd call it cross-examine.
Well, because he's asking about can he cross-examine them now?
But he's already had his 5 minutes.
Okay.
But they've been allowed to give additional testimony. I have a statutory right to cross-examine any witness that testifies.
Okay. Anyone else in the public have any comment?
For the record, I object to being denied the right to cross-examine the additional
We're gonna close
testimony
the
that was
public session
given.
this meeting. Mr. Lampert, do you feel, do you want to do a closing statement?
I just want to respond to the one last statement by the last young lady who came up and made a statement. Right now, there's an apartment above the bar. If this project was approved, there'll be an apartment above the bar. That's not changing. The new apartments are going to be next door. We're not adding any more apartments above the bar. The lot where the bar is located right now contains the bar and an apartment. After this project, if it is approved, it will contain an apartment and a bar. The new apartments will be separate, detached. They'll be connected, but they'll be detached from and apart from the bar. They're not. They have separate entrances, as testified to by the chef maker. They have separate methods of ingress and egress, separate methods of emergency egress. So they are not going to have an impact or not related to the bar. Nobody has to go through the bar to get to the apartments. Nobody has to go through the bar if there's an emergency. So again, that argument is specious. Again, the underlying issues, the bar is there. It's not going anywhere. The question is this a better plan? There's 5 apartments. And yet, unfortunately, some people are gonna get displaced. But that's not a concern, and that's something that's not within the jurisdiction of this board. A developer has a right to develop his properties. We have a statutory right to give them ample time for them to relocate. We can't throw them on the street, we don't evict them. There's a statute that protects them. And we will obviously follow all the rules and regulations to take care of the tenants, to make sure that they have ample opportunity to relocate. As my client says, he's already made arrangements with one of the tenants to move into one of his other places. When this is going to be done, they said there's a housing shortage, there's a need for housing. Instead of 5 apartments, it's going to be 9. New apartments, modern conveniences, modern appliances, sprinkler, ADA accessible. This is a win-win. This is not a loss. Everything here is better or will be better than what's there today. And again, as far as the bar and restaurant, that will be better than what's there today. And to the extent that my client can control his property, he does. But he cannot be held, and this board can't hold him responsible for all of the problems in that neighborhood. That's just not fair, that's just not reasonable. There are bars, one right across the street. Again, I can't testify or can't attest to what they do at their bar, but I know what my client does at his bar, and he runs a good operation. And he does keep the place neat and clean. Can't patrol it 24/7, nobody can. But he does what he has to do, and he will continue to do that. I think what he did 10 years ago in upgrading and cleaning up that facility is evidence of his commitment to that community, to keep a good facility, and this will be a better facility. And I think the testimony of Mr. Anisel, for the planning reasons, the board has the basis and justification to grant the variance. I think the parking variance, except for the apartments, was really granted 10 years ago. We're not seeking a new variance for the parking. When we do our legal notices, we have to indicate what the parking requirements are, and we did. But this board granted those variances 10 years ago for the 200 people, and we're willing to keep that condition in place to have 200 as a maximum occupancy in that facility. I thank you for your time.
Board discussion? Anyone have anything? Comments?
I just have a question. This situation is like ongoing prior to this gentleman trying to change his building. Have you all gone to the city or the mayor's office to complain about the situation in the area about the bars that has contributed to the situation before today? Has anybody called the mayor's office, called the police, called to complain about the homeless people, brought this to anybody else's attention before today? That's all I want to know. Or has it became an issue today?
Go ahead, number 2.
Yes, we asked before, we're looking for help before in this area because it's very dangerous. So in the pandemic, I worries for the people. I called the ambulance to Robert Wood Johnson because the people who stay there or live there is dangerous, was dangerous.
I understand what you're saying. I live in Brunswick, and I have the same problem that you're talking about that is existing in your area is existing in my area.
And before, I worried, and we work together with our families and with our community. We are volunteers to clean that area. We work and we are community volunteer to talk with that people, explain the situation. But it's not fair. We work hard to be better, live better. Any place in New Brunswick is not the third safe. It's other part. Yes, we understand that part. We work with that area too. We can mention the spot we are where is dangerous, but that's why we are here. because we work for a long time, years, in this issue, and that's the street.
Thank
So
you.
that's why we worked before. It's not the first time we are here. So thank you so much for considering this kind of work with our community.
Any of the board members have any questions or comments?
May I have a minute? Because again, you're missing one member. I need to discuss with my client whether we want to go to a vote tonight or carry the vote. I'll step outside.
Son 10 años que él está tratando de necesitar todo eso. No hay que reconocer. ¿Qué pregunta es? ¿Eso le pregunta? ¿Eso le pregunta? ¿Cómo es la porque ya le mandó por eso yo le dije, me preocupa
Thank you for the time, Mr. Chairman. I discussed the matter with my client. He indicated he would like the board to vote this evening. So, board can go ahead.
You want to do a closing statement?
I think I've made my closing statement in response to their comments. I don't want to belabor the issue anymore. I would just, in conclusion, indicate I think we've met our burden of proof pursuant to the MLUL. I think we're entitled to the two D variances, which are minor variances, and the C variances we justified. And like I said, the parking variance has already been dealt with, except for the apartments, and I think the testimony concerning the existing parking lot and the ability to service those apartments deals with that issue.
Double check, I've had two special conditions I've written down, that the applicant waives their right to on-street permit parking and the occupancy of our restaurant is limited to 200 persons. Is that everything that the board wants to add?
Well, I guess we would say 200 person or the highest it would be is 200. If the city gave them permission to have 275, that they would limit it to 200.
That's correct.
Limited to a max.
Yeah, limited to the max. With, square footage and stuff, I don't know how to, fire department or whoever gets that out, but yes.
Okay, so, should the board act favorably on the application and recommend the following conditions of approval? Compliance with the terms of the city engineering report dated June 2nd, 2022, payment of a site performance bond and amount reviewed and approved by the city engineer required, submission of a site inspection escrow deposit for engineering inspection fees and amount calculated pursuant to 1624-160, payment of all water and sewer connection fees pursuant to 1304 and 1308, issuance of a road opening permit from the city engineer if required. The applicant shall schedule a pre-construction meeting with the city engineering department. Compliance with the
terms of the Vignal Consulting Group report dated July 25th, 2022. Planning review escrow funded for all anticipated post-approval reviews. Payment of any other fees due to the city of New Brunswick related to the development or use of the project. Payment of outstanding taxes and water sewer fees. Middlesex County Planning Board approval or waiver. Springfield Soil Conservation District approval or waiver. Any other approval or waiver as required. Filing of a lot consolidation deed. Submission of engineering and/or architectural plans to comply with any changes required by the planning or engineering memos or plan amendments offered at the hearing, if any. Execution of the Title 39 parking enforcement agreement. The applicant waives rights to on-street permit parking. Compliance with the city's water service system ordinance. Trash and recycling pickups to be provided by private hauler trucks from the city. Occupancy of the bar restaurant limited to a maximum of 200 persons. All utilities and other site improvements to be maintained by the applicant by sole expense. All on-site utilities to be constructed in the ground. All temporary encroachments into the public right-of-way shall require city council approval. All construction staging shall be done on site unless an encroachment allowing the public right-of-way is approved by city council. Streets shall be kept clean and sediment and debris. The applicant shall cause the streets to be cleaned if directed to do so by the director of public works. Placement of down streets, curbs, and sidewalks for the direction of the city engineer. The applicant is seeking preliminary and final site plan, as well as a use of D4 FAR variance. And I have variances also for front yard setback, building coverage, impervious surface coverage, off-street parking, as well as EV parking spaces, and design waivers for loading location, parking setbacks at property line, parking lot landscaping, refuse area buffer, and plantings. And that's it.
Will this application also have to pay the fees to the parking for the different?
So no, because of the prior variance that they have, plus the pilot standard in this zone being relatively low, given that it's a very difficult zone for any parking to be created. It's already kind of designed as sort of like a walkable neighborhood. They actually don't trigger the threshold for it, so there is no pilot for this application.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And that was
I'll second.
Evelyn Escona,
Yes.
Charlie McNair,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mike Tugler,
Yes.
Mike Bowden,
Yes.
John Cox.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Other matters of interest to the public? Mr. Crowder, please come forward.
Yeah, good evening once again. Charles Prattville, Sedan Street resident, editor in New Brunswick today. And yeah, I wanted to express my disappointment that the rules for this board were not followed tonight. I encourage all the members to review the rules, and if you're not happy with them, make changes. But the rules do allow for people to object and to cross-examine witnesses. And I believe that the rules are in place for a good reason. As I mentioned before, time limits are a relatively new thing. If I recall correctly, it wasn't until just 2 years ago that those were instituted. And they have not been good. They have actually stifled discussion and made it easier for applicants to get away with not putting the full story out there. And so as somebody who's always seeking to get to the bottom of things, I, for one, am disappointed in how this board has, the direction you've moved. I do want to respond to my neighbor who asked about the, you know, people have come and spoke to the mayor's office about things. I'll state for a fact, I went to the mayor's other job last Tuesday to track him down, to ask him some questions. And he told me point blank, Charlie, I'm never going to talk to you. Never going to talk to you about politics or government, ever. So please don't pass judgment on anyone who comes to these meetings and takes time out of their day to give you their opinion, because so many people have done that before and given up because they've been unhappy with the response they've gotten from the current administration. It's depressing and demoralizing, but those of us who persist And in the interest of our community, just like your volunteers, nobody here is getting paid to be here. We're coming out here to voice our opinions and exercise our rights under the U.S. Constitution and every document down onto the zoning board rules. So I would encourage you to review those rules and follow them because you have an important job to do, and the public should have a bigger role in those decisions, and time limiting all of us, but letting the applicants go on and get second chance, third chance, fourth chance to put things on the record. And for the record, they didn't even put the thing on the record. They said they were going to put on the record about the parking thing. They said they were going to have testimony about the parking, what they tell their patrons, where to park. None of that ever got on the record. And, that was really, kind of a slap in the face that I was shut down and told, oh yeah, we'll put that on the record later on. They kept talking and talking, never put it on the record. So, I for one am disappointed with how this hearing was run tonight. I encourage you to please look at your rules, do better, and think about the people who are going to be affected by your decisions as we move forward. So thank you all for hearing me out, and wish you all well. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Any other member of the public have anything to say? Answers the public? Seeing none, we'll close it. Got a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Have a good night.